1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All life.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. Welcome. We have a fantastic show tonight. We are going to be having some fun, so let's get the introductions out of the way. I am one of your hosts. I am Aaron Harris, and joining me is the Kanan to my Ezra, or in this case, the Luthen to my Andor, the David Motters. David, brother, how's it going?
It is going. Once again, I love your comparisons. You got them. You're nailing them, man. No Carabas. And I'm ready to react and to cover this entire arc with you. And just glad that we're back recording again. It's been hasn't been easy sledding for you and me over the past few months. So it's good to be back with you, buddy.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you've been following the drama online, it has been crazy ever since the hurricane came through. So we got going again after the hurricane, and then we had a planned week off with David traveling home to visit family in Michigan. And then we had recorded an episode before he left, which is the episode before this one, where we talked about the Tales of the Jedi, the Dooku arc. So that we recorded that one before he left. And when I went to edit it, my computer crashed. So I lost everything. Fortunately, I was able to recover the recording, and I was able to recover all of our archive of stuff that was on that computer. Thank God, because that was a lot of stuff on there. But I was able to recover literally everything I needed to recover, and was able to pull an old computer that I was actually cleaning up to get rid of because we just don't use it, and was able to get everything onto there so we could start recording again. Now I'm just trying to secure copies of the editing stuff, all the programs I use for editing, and we're good to go. So yeah, it's been, and then on top of that, we had Hurricane Nicole come through on top of us.
Right. Yesterday.
It's been a 1-2 punch. Yeah, we're recording this actually November 11th. So November 10th is when we got Nicole came through and said, "How you do?" And it's been a 1-2 punch the last month.
No, it really has been. And I just wanted people to know that, it just really has not been smooth. In fact, Aaron didn't lose power or internet. I lost internet all day yesterday. So even if Aaron and I, we could have recorded, but I couldn't. I didn't have internet on my end. Didn't lose power, fortunately, but just not expected in November. So, yeah, I'm glad, Aaron updated you there on all that. And just know that we're trying to get these episodes recorded. We are not falling down on the job. We're just having a lot of roadblocks thrown our way, but we'll make it through, right, buddy?
Absolutely. You could honestly say the last month has been a living Carabas moment.
Well said.
Carabas.
Absolute Carabas.
Absolutely. So, but we're all good. We're good, and we are going to rock the night away talking about what I like to call the prison arc of Andor. We're discussing episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. 4-episode arc, which includes episode 7, The Announcement, directed by Benjamin Caron and written by Stephen Schiff. Episode 8, Narkina 5, directed by Toby Haynes and written by Bo Wilmot. Episode 9, Nobody's Listening, directed by Toby Haynes and written by Bo Wilmot again. And episode 10, One Way Out. Again, can you guess? Directed by Toby Haynes and written by Bo Wilmot. I probably could have shortened that up if I'd have read that sooner. That's what happens when you don't glance at other parts of the notes. That's what happens when I don't glance at other parts of the notes that David has written before I, fill in my blanks. But yeah.
It's to give people credit. It's not a Carabas. We're giving people credit who worked hard on this.
Yes, and they did. They worked really hard on it, and it was fabulous. So, of course, in this arc, we literally see the repercussions of the Aldani heist on the Galaxy and on Cassian. After he makes his escape, he ends up being arrested for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and is sent to the prison on Narkina 5. This prison is a prison with multiple levels of workers who are forced to help build the Imperial war machine. Across these episodes, we see parallel stories. Cassian in prison, Mon Montha in a prison of her own, quote unquote. She's trying to help fund a rebellion from her accounts while the walls of the Imperial system close in on her. Mon enlists the help of a few different Chandrillans. I might read that wrong. It's not a few different Chandrillans. It's fellow Chandrillans, Carabas, namely Tay Kolma, who to help get around the Imperials without notice. Unfortunately, Tay only has a few options, one of which is a thug named Davo. He is willing to help Mon if she allows his son to meet her daughter, to potentially be betrothed to one another. Mon refuses, leaving her safety in jeopardy. In the meantime, Cyril Karn has found a person who makes life worth living. He wants to be around. He wants to work with, and he wants everything to do with Deidre Miro. Yes, the ISB agent. So far, she has refused his creepy advances, but who knows how that relationship will progress. Deidre has been busy having Dr. Gorst torture Pack and Bix to find Cassian and ultimately Axis, the code name the ISB have for Luthen. Of course, at the end of episode 10, we learn that Luthen has somehow gotten ISB agent Lonnie Jung to be an informant within the ISB. Lonnie, of course, now has a family and he wants out, but Luthen tells him he's not off the hook and he is not done yet. Well written, David. There's a lot. And that's why I wanted to do these 4 episodes together, especially after seeing episode 10. It just all tied in perfectly, these 4 episodes together with a nice, neat bow. And it was fabulous. So let's get this going. Let's talk about our initial reactions when we watched this, because I know we've got 4 episodes, 4 different initial reactions. But overall, David, what did you think when you first saw these episodes?
Well, yeah, what I've been doing again, because this has been over 4 weeks, and a lot of podcasts are going week to week on this. But in fact, just before I jumped on with you, I wanted to watch the last half of episode 7, which was Announcement, and it shows Cassian getting arrested. And so I was just watching that, jumped on with you, and I've just kind of been looking back all the way till then, which is, of course, several weeks ago, right? And I've been looking at my thoughts about this arc, and I agree. I like calling it the prison arc. And I have to admit, I was less nervous. I don't know about Andor getting out than I was in the previous arc that took place on Aldhani, right? You and I called that the Aldhani arc. And in both arcs, look, I know for a fact that Cassian survives, right? Because we see him in Rogue One. I was much more nervous. I'm not quite sure why, but I was. I found myself less attached to Andor's fellow inmates compared to the Aldhani crew. I don't know. I like that crew better. And I guess, I love the arc overall. As my grade will show later, I like this arc more than the first arc. You and I called it, I think, the Escape from Ferrix arc. But I liked it less than the Aldhani arc. Okay, so it's right in between there. So for me, still the tops is the Aldhani arc, then that initial Escape from Ferrix arc. But I will end my initial reactions with Andy Serkis, amazing.
Very good. Very good. For me too, I gotta say, I'm loving this show. This was an exciting arc. And I love how we have these multiple stories going on, whether it's a story with Cassian out running these missions. And of course, now in this arc, he's in prison. And of course, running alongside of Mon Mothma, dealing with her situation with the money and the Imperials closing in on her. Then, of course, the story with what's going on with Luthen. And now he is dealing with the aftermath of Aldhani. So I love how we have these characters that are tied together but do on their own separate journeys running through. And it is fabulous. And I will tell you, I was blown away and absolutely shocked when Andy Serkis appeared on screen. Did not see that coming, had not heard that was happening. And he just, like he does with every role this man does, he killed it as Kino Loy. And I will say that the 3 episodes he was in was the fastest turnaround of going to I do not like this guy to wanting to weep at the end. It was such a quick turnaround too. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this guy. He's a jerk. He's playing his jerk really well. And all of a sudden at the end, I'm like, no, help him swim. I mean, it's just, phenomenal. So, and of course the looks inside the ISB is just awesome. And I'm loving the series, hands down, loving the series. So, all right, well, let's jump into the prison arc here and hit on a few different talking points. I think the biggest talking point we need to discuss, honestly, is really more of a symbolism in the episode, actually the whole arc, and actually it's really been the whole series so far, of how Andor's life and Andor's journey mirrors Mon Mothma's in a way. They're both on this path. They're both, I think initially Mon Mothma wanted to be down this road of getting the Empire out, but now it's kind of feeling trapped in the role she's being forced to play. Whereas Cassian is literally being drugged down this path. He doesn't want to go down this road. And they're both literally in a prison literally of their own making in some sense. His a little prison, hers is more of a, not 4 walls, but it's a political prison, a mental prison, a belief prison. So, and I love how this story has developed these going along, because they go hand in hand, really. And it shows a difference of how two powerful people in the rebellion get to where they are together, eventually down the road. And I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts on this, Dr. David, with how the symbolism and how just it plays together. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because it is, to me, it's been so much fun and so incredible to see.
Oh, no, absolutely agree with you, buddy. And I love how you did this and the talking points, and it just really starts us off in a great way here. Yeah. You know, in my work as a psychologist, a lot of times people are in a trap, of depression and anxiety. They're not in a prison cell, but their brain is. In fact, the work that I've talked about before in previous psychology corners, and I've talked quite extensively about ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, and a part of that is helping my clients give a name to that internal dictator, the one that really generates lots of depression, anxiety, criticizes that person, etc. And so, it's interesting, Aaron, as you were describing the mirroring of Andor and Mon Mothma's journeys, I thought back to you and I covering the Kenobi series, and how I was like, wait, are they going to do a lot of Luke? And they didn't. They do Leia. And I thought, wow, I really like how they did that, and really did that story with Obi-Wan. And same thing here, I feel the same way, buddy, that I'm like, wow, what a neat way to do that, to have Andor be in a prison and Mon Mothma. Now, going back to what I said a minute ago, I'm actually glad I had the 15 to 20 minutes before you and I got on and hit the record button. And I told myself, I want to go back and watch that last 20 minutes of Announcement, episode 7. And the conversation between Andor and his mother, Marva, and it's so powerful. And I was tearing up watching it again, because Marva says, tell me you understand, like, why she has to say and she has to say and he can't. And Andor, he says, he says, I don't understand. And I'm so glad I saw that tonight before we got on, because I'm looking at him, I'm like, okay, there's where Tony Gilroy has him. He doesn't get this. She is wanting to join the rebellion. She loves what they did at Aldhani, doesn't know he was a part of it. And of course, he's playing it down. That was just a robbery. But, I was sitting there, Aaron, watching Cassian Andor say that. And you know what popped into my head? I visualized him and Jyn Erso on the beach as the Death Star, after it hit Scarif, and it's coming to envelop them. And I thought, he goes from being in that prison, right, buddy? The prison of, I'm not going to be part of this. And so he's not only in a physical prison, but the own brain of like, no, I don't understand what my mom's saying. I don't want to be a part of this rebellion, to seeing him die for the cause. And so again, you set it up on the tee, and oh man, I was ready to hit it, buddy.
Yes, you did. It's interesting, because we have, we see Cassian, in Rogue One, we see Mon Mothma in not only Rogue One, we see her, we saw her past in the Clone Wars, we saw her future in Return of the Jedi, and of course, if you've read any of the novels post Return of the Jedi, you know the role Mon Mothma plays, whether it be in Bloodlines or in
what was the series you and I read? What's it was by
Alphabet Squadron.
Thank you, Alphabet Squadron.
Alphabet Squadron, or even the more recent book I was thinking actually was Princess and the Scoundrel. We see the type of role she leads, and how confident and outright forward she is. It to see her in this literally you can tell she's nervous, she's scared, she's literally risking. It's one thing to risk everything when you're standing behind troops fighting. It's another thing to be literally by yourself in the heart of the beast.
Yeah.
And we're seeing her begin to having to make those decisions and grow into that character, into the leader we see in those movies, and in the series, in the books. So I'm liking they're taking the time to do this, but I'm loving it even more how it just kind of mirrors Andor's journey, where he is right now, he's literally sitting in an Imperial prison through this arc. It has a unique story on how he gets there. While Mon is dealing with, let's talk a little bit about Mon Mothma and her journey in this right now. And the issue she's dealing with is basically finances. She's trying to fund the rebellion through a bunch of or through a bunch of charities, charitable organizations that she is founding. And of course, she's got issues because now with all the new financial regulations the Empire has, she now has a whole bunch of credits unaccounted for. And she's trying to figure out how she can make it all accountable. And it's just not working out for her. So she ended up having to ask for help. She went to an old friend, Tay. I just blanked on his last name. Go back to my notes. Tay Colma. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Tay Colma, for help. And he's a banker on Chandrilla. And he's going to help her and the reason she picked him is because she knew he's not happy with the Empire.
Right.
And of course, he almost reluctantly takes the assignment, and tries to come up with some solutions. And the only solution he comes up with two solutions. Either A, make 400,000 credits just appear out of nowhere and replace the money so they could say, hey, see, here it is. Or since she doesn't have it just lying around, the other option is going through this thug Davo that he recommends, which also is a gentleman who that is well known on Trangella, who is obviously I guess the nice way to put it would be money launderer. And if that's a nice way to put anything.
Right.
So he's a money launderer, and possibly even a loan shark. So she has to deal with that. And so she's having to make these decisions that put her even more at risk in the long run. And she is, it's a hard decision for her. Taking a look at Mon's journey at this point, through this arc and what she's having to deal with. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Well, I thought you said it very well when, because back in the summer, you and I did do the Audible, you did Audible, right? Of Princess and the Scoundrel? Or
I sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure
and
did.
I did as well. And I'm with you. I love how calm and confident she is. She wants to, of course, send Leia and Han on a honeymoon. You and I read her interacting with Hera. Is that right, Hera? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Hera in Alphabet Squadron. So neat to see those two talk and interact. So I've really enjoyed seeing Mon every time. But this presentation, in fact, episode 10, which is, I'm scrolling back to make sure, One Way Out, the way that Genevieve O'Reilly acts it out, just so nervous and so cornered, so well done, the way that, like, again, the actress did that. Very different than the cool, calm, collected one I see at the end of Return of the Jedi. But, it gives me these kind of thoughts. I go back to what you said a minute ago. It's one thing for people to to talk a big game when you're standing behind troops, no matter who you are, whether you're behind stormtroopers, whether you're behind a bunch of rebel troopers, everyone can talk a big game. But when you're alone by yourself and you're trying to do the right thing, man, oh man, it's so admirable, right, to see that. Because a lot of times people say, well, I'm going to save my own skin. I'm a senator. I don't have to do anything. I could be like all these other ones in the Senate. They're all corrupt. They're taking their payouts. I live in a beautiful place here on Coruscant. I'm not on the firing lines. But she doesn't do that. And so I have to admit, I am fascinated with what she's going to do here, because she doesn't have much of a relationship with her daughter, definitely not without her husband, not with her husband, but she is so upset about Davos' proposition. It made me think about the movie Indecent Proposal with Robert Redford and Demi Moore, and just her disgust with him, because she sees what it did to her life, right, buddy? The early marriage, and so boy, oh boy, is this man rock in a hard place. So yes, I'm interested. Yes, I feel for her, and ultimately, when you ask me what I think about Mon Mothma, already admired her before, but these episodes are making me admire her even more.
Oh, absolutely. It's very, very admirable of her to see her slugging away at it still, even against all odds, to say. So, all right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. We talked about Mon Mothma. Let's talk about Cassian, because as we talked about, this journey is kind of mirroring each other from a certain point of view. So we have Cassian, of course, who makes his escape with the money. He gets his money and takes off from the Aldani heist. His first trip, though, is back home to see his mom, to see Bix, and try to make things better, try to get his mom to leave with him so they could go off somewhere and, just lie low and live a happy life. And of course, mom is now a rebel. Always has been, always will be, and plans on apparently on dying as a rebel, and says she's not going anywhere. Bix, of course, sticks around as well because she's got a life there, and is just, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with her relationship with Cassian at this point. And then, so Cassian takes off and leaves. Ends up on a planet where he is just living the good life, lying low, nice beaches, and seems to be a little tropical resort city there on the coast, and is living life to the fullest. When a bunch of kids doing kid stuff just, end up wrecking some stuff, getting chased by shore troopers, honestly. Shore troopers, and he ends up being at the wrong place at the wrong time and being taken into custody and charged with basically disrupting the peace and anti-imperial sentiment. Which I found, which I loved how he just kept saying, "I'm just a tourist. I'm just a tourist."
Right.
I'm just a tourist. I will say, though, in this arrest scene, David, and I want to get your thoughts on it. When he was arrested, the shore troopers holding him, and of course, somebody called, I believe they called for backup or something. So about that time, a Imperial sentry droid comes walking up, and it looks, basically it's K2SO.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's K2SO, but it's not K2SO. When that droid first walked up those steps and I saw it, I was thinking, oh, could this be we actually get to see him, his first encounter with K2? And it's
a T. Yeah.
It's up not being K2, but it was still a cool situation. What were your thoughts on seeing that droid pop up?
Yeah, they said it's a KX droid, right? And
yes.
Yes, and so Yeah, I mean, I mean, we'd all heard, really, before the beginning of season one that uh, that K2SO wouldn't be in season one. But again, none of us knew if that was true or not. No one confirmed it or not. But I was hoping it was him. Alan Tudyk, of course, you and I have met, right? Him and Felicity Jones, and so got our pictures with him at Star Wars Celebration 2017 in Orlando. So I'm a big fan of him, and I was hoping it would be him because I don't just love him as K2SO, but a lot of his other voice acting stuff, and of course Firefly. But
I was going to say Walsh. You got to love Walsh.
Oh yes, but it wasn't to be. They kind of given us a little taste, but I do think it's going to be. Well, we got 2 episodes left. I don't think they're going to introduce it. I really do think they're going to keep K2SO to season 2.
Exactly. I think they will too. But yeah, it was good to see the droid, and that's I literally did freak out a little bit thinking it was K2SO, even though I knew he wasn't supposed to be there, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yep. And unfortunately, like Walsh, Andor is now just a leaf on the wind, and he's blown into prison for his charges. He gets sent into an Imperial prison, which he is transported there to the prison, which, as I stated earlier, is on the planet Narkina 5, where the prison is. And he is assigned to level 5 day shift. Level 5, level 5 section 2 day shift? I believe it was 5-2D.
Yeah.
And there he meets, he's assigned to a table to do work, but he meets basically the prisoner who's overseeing the work, which is Kino Loy, who of course is Andy Serkis' character. And of course Cassian has to kind of learn his way around how they do stuff. And of course, the floor of this prison, of course, is completely electrified. They can flip a switch Imperials can flip a switch at any point. And if you're touching the floor, you will get shocked. and it will hurt.
Yeah.
And so we see Cassian kind of learning the ropes. Then there is an incident in the prison where they find out that an entire section of which was 100 men were all completely wiped out and killed. And as time goes on, they find out that they were killed because they found out nobody ever gets out of prison. Even though they all have counters in their cells that counts down, they all never leave prison. When your counter expires, they take you out and they just move you to a different cell block.
Yeah.
And apparently somebody made a mistake and put the same guy back on the same cell block, and which caused a riot because they realized nobody gets out. And of course, this led to Cassian's motive even more to escape the prison. And of course, which leads into a fabulous story and the convincing of Kino Loy that it needs to happen. So let's talk about Cassian's prison journey there. Poor Cassian has been a glutton for punishment when it comes to being in the wrong place at the wrong time, hasn't he, David?
Well, no question. Yeah. And I think that's the whole thing with a dictatorship. He isn't doing anything wrong. The shore troopers accusing him of stuff, and he's just walking. He's not doing anything wrong. He didn't destroy anything. He wasn't saying anything anti-imperial. He's just falsely charged. There's no due process. And, when you see him, in prison, like I was thinking, and I have some of this in my final thoughts, you see him, I think, starting to move towards what his mom said. There, yeah, you can go in the planet that he went to was Niamos, right? It's very much
Yes.
like Miami Vice in Star Wars. And so, he goes there thinking, I'm just a tourist and, they won't bother me. But his mom nailed it. She said, they're everywhere. Where are you going to go? I mean, you can leave Ferrix, you can go wherever, but they're going to be there and you're going to be dealing with it. And so, so very quickly he can see, wow, I thought I was going to go be able to relax, enjoy my life. No. And so she's already got the picture. You know what? I'm old and I've been quiet too long. I'm not going to do that anymore. Being in prison, he does say something that he said to, I think, Nemec, the young guy with the manifesto. He says, they don't care. That's kind of the title of one of the episodes here in this arc. Nobody's listening.
Yep.
They don't care. They don't care about your prison sentence. It's not real. They're just going to ship you to another place and you're still in prison. And hopefully, again, the development here is him continually seeing, well, I mean, I know what the Empire is about. I stole some money, a heist, but now I'm imprisoned by them. And again, moving him more towards, what we see in Rogue One, which is, what, I'm going to battle these people versus just thinking I can avoid them the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And what I like about his story in this, and his reflectiveness, and as he's taken into custody and he's prison, he from the beginning is trying to hatch a plan to escape.
Right.
He ain't staying. He doesn't want to stay. He's already trying to hatch a plan to escape. From the very moment he's in there, he's trying to figure it out. And they're all telling him, there's no way out. Just deal with it. This is how it is. The floor is electrified. You're not going anywhere. Watch your counter and watch it tick down. You'll be fine. Because the one thing everybody in that prison had was hope that they would escape, or hope that they would survive their prison sentence and it'd be over and done with and they'd be gone.
That's right.
They would be released. So, so much more to talk about. We're going to keep going on this, but we got to take a quick break. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back and we'll be talking some more of the prison arc of Andor. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are discussing what we have dubbed the prison arc of the Andor series. When we before we took a break, we've been talking about the Imperial prison and Andor's journey through the prison. And one of the main relationships he makes in this prison that ends up being pivotal in his ability to escape is with the man in charge, the prisoner in charge of the section, Kino Loy, aka Andy Serkis. And we see first, he's very gruff. This is my section. This is my floor. You will do what I say, because we will not fall behind. We will be the best that we can. I've never missed a mark. We're not going to start now. I mean, he was a taskmaster, and very dislikable there at the beginning. And no matter, and then of course, after that whole section was executed, everybody was asking questions, and Kino was like, just stick with the program. There's nothing you can do about it. Just stick with the program. It's all just probably rumor anyway. You can't trust hand signals from other sections. Yeah, it's just trying to keep his group in line. And that's when Cassian really started pressing him. We need to make our escape. We need to make our escape. How many guards do they have on duty on each floor? How many guards on duty on each floor? And Kino tells him he's wasting his time. Don't do this. Right. All you're going to do is get killed. And is really not playing the game. And it wasn't until one of their people died or got sick in the walkway. The old man, I can't think of his name to save my life right now, but he got, that's it. Ulaf got ill, fell and was lying in the tunnel they use between the work floor and the sleeping quarters, where they call for a medic, and it's just Cassian, Kino, and the medic, and Olaf, who's lying there pretty much, unconscious. And the medic's like, there's nothing I can do for him, and just kind of puts him to sleep, kills him, gives him medicine, and kills him right then and there. And that's when he finds out that the doc who was helping him tells him that the prisoners on that section that were all killed, the 100 men that were killed because somebody put somebody in the wrong cell by accident. And that was supposed to have been released, put him back in with the same group he was already with. And that's when everybody realized they weren't ever going to be released, and that they were just being shucked around everywhere. And that caused them to riot. And of course, that's when, of course, you start seeing a difference in Kino, because he's starting to realize this isn't right. This isn't cool. Mm-hmm. And he ends up Cassian ends up asking again, how many guards are on duty at once? And as the door opens for them to walk away, you hear Kino say 12, and that was it. Yeah. And then we see a whole different, the plan hatch and everything come together. They end up jamming a stick inside the lift that's about halfway down, so they can jump up and use it to climb up. And the escape ensues, and it is just craziness. And it's some of the very exciting action going on there, as you have a bunch of prisoners taking out Imperials left and right, and it's really good. Yeah. And I mean, I even love the one shot of maybe about a dozen to 15 Imperials cowering behind a locked door as all the prisoners are running by. They're sitting there with their blasters and their stun guns and their stun sticks, but yet they're hiding because 5,000 prisoners are making their escape. And to me, Kino probably had the best. I loved Kino's journey in this arc, and I want to get your thoughts on that, because he literally goes. I mean, he's a prisoner. I mean, obviously he did something. I can't say obviously did something wrong, because Cassian didn't do anything wrong, but he's in prison, convicted of it. He's obviously accepted his punishment, because he's watching his counter and he knows when it goes down, he's out, and that's his only goal, is to get that thing counted down. But then we see that journey with realization of things. This isn't going as I expected it to, as it's supposed to be. So I want to get your thoughts, David, on the character journey Kino Loy has taken in these episodes.
Yeah, well, I think back to what you said. The Empire is very smart and set it up like, hey, here's your counter. You can see it in your cell. You can see it go down every day. You have some hope. You and I know it's false hope. But I here's what I think about, like, as you put it in the notes, Kino Loy's journey. And the thing I thought about is a hero's journey. He does resist the call, right? When Cassian first starts talking to him, he continues to resist it, stop talking like that. And then finally, enough happens. Like you said, Olaf dies, and he tells him, not only does Olaf die, but like you said, the medic there, the physician, the doctor tells him, yeah, everyone was fried on that level so that they wouldn't talk. And so then you see, in essence, when Kino Loy does tell Andor, no more than 12, guards on each level, he's crossing the threshold, right? Just like in Obi-Wan, when we see Obi-Wan, he's there on Tatooine, and he's got the lightsaber, and they show that clip, and you can see it hanging there, and he's heading towards the ship to go to that other planet, to try to find Princess Leia. He crosses the threshold as well. So I do think of Kino Loy's journey as one of being a hero in there, first trying to not only get himself out, but these other guys out. but then he really does do the hero's journey. And I have to admit that to fast forward, and he says, I can't swim. Here is my reality. Here's my headcanon. Someone helped him swim to shore because someone realized, you know what, he helped us, even though he was tough on us, he helped us. But that's my headcanon. Kino Loy survived. He did make it to shore like Cassian and Melshi did. Okay, that's my headcanon.
And I like that headcanon. I like that.
And no one else can tell me different. Nanny,
Exactly.
boo-boo. No.
Exactly. That's your headcanon. I love it. The way Kino's story ends, though, in this arc, hopefully it doesn't end the way it looks, because we don't see what really happens. They're making their escape, and of course, this prison they're in is in the middle of the ocean, and not far enough away from land that it's dangerous swim to get there. But they make their escape, and they're leaving, trying to escape and trying to get out, and they get up there, and it's time to literally jump off the top level into the water and swim away. And everybody's excited, everybody's happy, everybody's just diving off into the water, and it's this feel-good moment. Yes, they're escaping, it's there. And Cassie turns around and looks at Kino, and Kino's just got this face, this almost devastated look on his face. And Cassian's like, what's wrong? And he's like, I can't swim. And before Cassian can do anything, he gets knocked off the side into the water. So we don't know what happens to Kino. But that's why I said we went from loving it to despising him there at the beginning to literally weeping there at the end when he says he can't swim. It's just an emotional gut punch for such a short episode, or a short window span that this character has been in. And it's really, really messed up there, or not messed up. It's really emotional. Let's talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd quickly say this. I think it's Tony Gilroy saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to feel good for a minute." No, you're not. It's just, the whole show is just like, gut punch. Losing Nemec, in the episode The Eye, and losing some of these characters, just gut punch, gut punch. And so anyways, I just had to say that.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it just adds to the trauma and to the character of Cassian at that point too, because it's showing the losses he's gone through to get to where he is by Rogue One. Right. Now I know we're running out of time, and there's a couple things we still got in our show notes to discuss. And there's one thing I didn't put in our show notes that I want to throw out there before. So now I'm going to jump. I just want to get your thoughts on this real quick. In the second episode of the arc, the episode Narkina 5, we have Luthen making a journey to a particular planet, and I got it right here, to the planet Segra Milo, where he meets with Saw Gerrera to try to sell some Imperial hardware, and all he wants in return is a meeting with Anto Krieger, which is a former separatist from the days of the Clone Wars, this guy's another rebel. And unfortunately, the two don't see eye to eye in how they're going about doing things. Of course, everybody knows Saw Gerrera is just kill them all and let God sort it out type of guy. Right. But Saul makes a statement that I want to get your thoughts on, David, because it's a statement that just kind of resonates not only to his character in Rogue One, to his appearances in Rebels, but even kind of back to, and you can almost see the origins of it back when his sister dies in Clone Wars. He looks at Luthen and says, I'm the only one with clarity of purpose. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Well, it's tough because when you get to the end of episode 10 and the ISB mole asks, this is Lonnie Young, asks, Luthen what he sacrificed, he has quite the monologue right there. Mm-hmm. And boy, does Luthen sound like he has clarity of purpose there, right? I mean, but now again, when we first heard this from Saw, you're like, wow, does he? I mean, everyone thinks they're doing the right thing, and they're kind of going about it in different ways. You even see it in the ISB. Deidre Muriel thinks, this is the way to do this. Blevins thinking this way. Lonnie Young is saying this. These different inspectors under that head guy, Partagas, think they're all doing it the right way. But, I do think that Saw does have clarity of purpose. He knows what it is. It's what you said. It's kill them all and let God sort it out at the end. Whereas, Mon Mothma has a very different take. I think that beautiful scene in Rebels that's animated, between her talking to Saw. I think, there's different ways of going about this, And, I guess to ultimately answer the question, does he believe he has clarity of purpose? Yes. Is he the only one? No, I don't think he is the only one with clarity of purpose because, Mon Mothma has a slightly different or pretty significantly different view than Luthen, and Luthen does from Saw. So I don't think he has the market cornered on truth or purpose here. But I like what you said, and I just started visualizing those episodes of a young animated Saw Gerrera and his sister, and when she dies, maybe the sole clarity of purpose he has is, I'm getting back at these guys for killing my sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Well said, because that's exactly along the lines I was thinking. Because it really goes back to that Clone Wars arc. And when she dies, she had clarity of purpose wanting to free Onderon, whereas when she is killed, his purpose becomes free Onderon, not to free Onderon, but to get revenge on those who killed her. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes revenge on the Empire, because the Empire really, he really figured it out. The Empire was in cahoots with separatist leadership. He's really ahead of his time, per se. But yeah, well said, my friend. Well said. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start to wrap things up here. Okay. We're running out of time. We need to get stuff wrapped up. Let's go ahead and jump into our final thoughts, David. And I will kick those off here. This is definitely, this whole Andor series is definitely on a different level than, let's say, The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is very action-packed, very bam, 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 where this is really more paced. It's a little more drawn out, a little more detailed. And to me, it works fantastic for the story they're telling. I understand it's not for everybody, but for me, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This particular arc for me, by far, is probably the best that we've seen so far in the series. For me, I like it. For me, it's been the best. And it's one, because we see, as we discussed earlier, the mirroring story of Mothma and Andor being each in their own prison. But for me, Kino made this arc. I loved that character. Kino Loy Andy Serkis, you kill me, man. I mean, you made me care for somebody that I don't know if I'm ever going to see again, and I hate that. I love to hate it. It's a love-hate relationship we have, Andy. But it's just, to me, very, very in depth, very, very good. And I love and there's so much more we didn't have time to get into, that make this so good with Lutheran and the ISB agent mole, and all the deviousness of the ISB, with their plans for Keeger and his rebel unit. And then, of course, the complex relationship between Cyril and Deidre. But there's just so much story going in different directions that it just is so complex and so much fun, and I'm loving it. So, David, what are your final thoughts on the prison arc?
Yes, I loved what you said too, buddy. After viewing this arc, it's escaping a prison. The previous arc was pulling off a heist. I just, again, I'm taking all this in totality, and because Aaron and I haven't recorded every week, it really has allowed me to look at it and think about it in more depth than maybe normally, which is good. And I can really see why Cassian is ideally suited to eventually become like that integral part of the rebellion we see, in Rogue One. And, I just wrote down to make sure to say, bravo to everyone working on this show. Now this might seem like, well, why are you saying this? I say they're telling a story that fits and makes sense for where we see Cassian in Rogue One. And it's because Tony Gilroy, he knows where he's going to, he really does. And you might think, well, yeah, of course, but it's not easy to get all this stuff straight. Just think about the rise of Skywalker. J.J. Abrams wanted 2 movies, right? We've heard that he went to Disney. They said no, they wanted the trilogy, get it done in December of 19. And almost universally, I think most Star Wars fans, unlike Last Jedi where people are torn, pretty much everybody I've heard Aaron say it was too rushed. Too much was put into, they tried to get too much done. I'm not blaming JJ or anything. They did just try to get too much. And because you think, well, look, they've got, episode 7, they got episode 8, it's easy. Yeah, just do episode 9. It's not easy. And that's why I'm not just criticizing people and throwing them under the bus, but to tell a really good story, it's not as easy as I think people think, right? And so, I like what Aaron was mentioning, and I'm saying it here too. They're really building this. They've got the time to tell this story, and they're moving it in a nice direction. Versus me going, wait, this isn't making sense. I mean, yeah, Tony Gilroy's got 12 episodes this season and 12 next season, or for season 2. And why this is going off all lockjaw and all out of whack and stuff? None of that. It's moving step by step in the right direction. It's linear. I love watching that. And so far, just really enjoying it like you are, buddy.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Of course, we do grade all of our reviews based on, like, if you were getting a grade in school, whether it's an A, B, C, D, and or F. So let's go ahead and jump into our grades. David, how did you grade this episode?
Yeah, buddy. Well, I mentioned in my initial reactions that I liked the Aldhani arc the most, this one second most so far, and then the initial arc, Escape from Ferrix, those first 3 episodes. I like those a third. So again, I don't know what these last 2 episodes are going to entail. But that puts it at an A-. I put the Aldhani at an A, B+ for the Escape from Ferrix arc. So I very much see this overall arc as an A-, right in between.
Very good. Very good. For me, like I said, I love this arc. It's probably my favorite of the arcs. But I give it an A- as well. Because it was a little slow start, but it really powered through and told a fantastic story. So for me, A-. Of course, we want to know what you think of the prison arc or of any of the Andor episodes so far. Definitely hit us up on Twitter at SW Reactions Pod or on Instagram, SW Reactions, and let us know what you think of the episodes. We'd love to hear from you. David, I understand we got a psychology corner tonight.
We do, buddy. I've been trying to go in a linear fashion, just like Tony Gilroy and the creators. So please listen to our previous ones. So yeah, I guess now that I say that, Aaron, the previous episode that we recorded would definitely come before this psychology corner. So if we can post them in that order, that would work, right? So our Count Dooku, Tales of the Jedi. I guess maybe next, and then this one. So, all right. So I'm trying to be linear, right? Not as easy as it seems, right? To tell a good story and keep things linear. All right. So, so far I've given you statistics on the increases in depression and anxiety in the last few podcast episodes. And in the last episode, I said we would go over 2 cognitive distortions to help decrease depression and anxiety. All right. And so as we progress here, I'm going to cover 2 more. I'm going to keep trying to do 2 at a time. I'm going to list what they are and then how to deal with them. Okay, so here it goes. The first cognitive distortion that I want to tell our listeners about, it's called, quote unquote, all or nothing thinking. Okay, this happens when you can see this in yourself or others when you're thinking in absolute terms. This is also called black or white thinking, right? Using words like always, every, and never. You're never reliable, or it's always going to be a problem for me, or every time I try something, it doesn't work. Okay. So real life examples of this distortion would be telling yourself that you're a complete failure if your performance falls anywhere short of perfect. For students, it could be saying you're quitting school because you had all A's and 1 B. Right? It's either all or nothing. I'm a success or I'm not. I'm an all A student or not. So to beat this distortion, I want to give our listeners some ideas on how to do this. One way is to ask yourself, has this ever been, has there ever been a time when it was not that way? That it's, there isn't an always, or it never works out, right? All or nothing thinking doesn't allow for exceptions. So even if one exception can be found, it's no longer all or nothing. Okay, so that's one way for our listeners to kind of start to chip away and knock out that type of cognitive distortion. Another thing to do is ask yourself, never? Like question mark, really? Never? Like it never works out for me? Or, people are never nice to me? Oh, wait, yeah, there are times when my parents, my brother, my sister, my friends are. Okay. Or even ask yourself, always? Is that always the case? And almost always, you can find exceptions to those rules, okay? So little things like that can help you beat that distortion called all or nothing thinking. Let's go over a second cognitive distortion. It's called overgeneralization. Okay. So, this occurs when people take isolated cases or instances and use them to make wide generalizations, okay? A real life example could be, he yelled at me. He's always yelling at me. He must not like me. He'll never like me. So you can kind of see all or nothing thinking bleeding into this one as well. So to beat this distortion, here's a couple ways to do that. Catch yourself overgeneralizing and say to yourself, quote, just because one instance or case or event happened, it doesn't necessarily mean I am or you are, he is, she is, or the instance is always like that, okay? That, again, helps you to start breaking up. That just because, I've used that a lot over 30 years with clients. Just because this happened, it doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Just because someone's mean doesn't mean they're always going to be. Just because you failed once doesn't mean you're going to fail the rest of your life, okay? So there's some ways to beat that distortion called overgeneralization. Now, you just heard me mention a minute ago. I'm going to try to cover 2 of these cognitive distortions per podcast that Aaron and I do. So next one that Aaron and I record, I will cover mental filter and disqualifying the positive. And in fact, in our show notes, I already have those in and ready to rock and roll and ready to teach you. Again, the next time Aaron and I record, we will have another psychology corner.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Very good. And David, if somebody has any questions about your psychology corner or want to talk to you about Star Wars, what's the best way to go about doing that, my friend?
Absolutely, brother. There are 2 main ways. We had 3, but we don't have that email anymore. But that's fine. The best way is through Twitter, and mine has not changed. It is still at David _Modders, Modders. There is an S at the end of Modders. The other way is Instagram. Just look up my name, and you'll find me pretty quickly.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, the best way to do that is Twitter, at TAHarris121079. So of course, David, you know what this means?
Here we go.
It is time for this week's Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. I need to get a theme song for that, kind of like a do 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 do. I don't know, something fun. Anyway, are you ready, David?
I am ready.
All right. This week's joke: what do you call the Imperial troopers who are assigned to janitorial duties?
Ooh, and this does fit perfectly with, I think, these episodes. What do you call the Imperial troopers who are assigned janitorial duties?
Pooper troopers.
That's in between a groaner and kind of funny. It's right in between.
Pooper trooper. Yeah, you see that? See, here's your job. So you could be a stormtrooper, you could be a shore trooper. Let's take the test to find out what you can be. You could be an Imperial pilot. You take the test. Perfect. You're going to be a pooper trooper. They're the ones with the brown stained uniforms.
Like the shore troopers, man. They got that tannish color. Yeah.
Yeah, except for theirs is a little more chunky.
Yeah. Oh.
I better stop while I'm ahead.
Oh my God. I walked. I stepped in that one. Oh, there's another one right there. I stepped
into it. Oh, I know it stinks.
Oh. Our listeners are extra tonight.
Oh, so much fun. So much fun. David, my friend, this has been a blast.
Oh my gosh. Great way to end with some humor, buddy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Y'all are the best. Y'all are awesome. We love y'all, appreciate y'all, prayed for y'all. Do something kind for somebody this week. Just make the world a better place. It's all we can ask of you. All we can ask of each other is just to do what you can to make the world a better place. So with that, remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.